Hello and welcome to the second of two lectures that are all part of the Introduction to Elements and Periodic Table lecture. Okay, so last time we talked about elements, now we're going to talk about the periodic table. And let's see, did I tell you that if you are ever without a periodic table and you need it for homework or for whatever, being a nerd, I don't know what you need it for, go on to ptable.com, it's a great place. There are a lot of other periodic tables out there, that's just the one that I personally tend to go to. All right, so let's talk about the columns on the periodic table. Columns go up and down. Think of Greek columns on a building. So these are the ones that go up and down. And there, look, I drew an arrow here. I'm going to draw an arrow pointing at my arrow that I drew earlier. We call those groups or families, completely interchangeable. Sometimes I say groups, sometimes I say families. It just depends on how I'm speaking at that moment. There are 18 groups on the periodic table. They're counted up here, you see. And everything in the same group is similar in chemical properties and physical properties as well. They all act like one another. So lithium acts like sodium, is very similar. Sodium is very similar to potassium. Potassium is very similar to rubidium. Rubidium is very similar to cesium, and cesium is very similar to francium. What about hydrogen? Hydrogen's kind of a weirdo. Sometimes he belongs over here with these guys. Sometimes he belongs over here with these guys, noble gases. He's kind of a couch hopper, and just depending on whatever we're doing at the moment, he'll show up in different places. So yeah, he's a bit of a weirdo. So just remember that if you're in the same group with somebody else, regardless of what group you're in, if you're in the same column, group or family, all the same words, you have similar properties for everybody as everybody else. The rows go side to side. I personally have trouble with keeping up with left and right. I also have trouble keeping up with the difference between a row and a column. So the way I remember it is that you row your boat across the periodic table. So yeah, that's how I remember it. And then the columns are the other ones. They go the other direction. So again, here I'm going to draw another arrow pointed at my arrow that I already drew for y'all. We call these periods. There are 7 periods on the periodic table. They're counted on the left-hand side right here. These guys right here, we'll get more into those later. Those are not distinct periods. They come out of the periodic table. All right, so what does periodic mean? Well, that would be a note check, except for there's the answer right there. Boom. Periodic means it's a pattern of similar properties that repeat from period to period. So what that means is that there are trends, there are property patterns that as you go across a period, you're going to start to see certain trends that direction too. It doesn't matter what direction you go. And it doesn't matter what period you're on. You could be on period 4, you could be on period 7. It doesn't matter. You're going to see the same trends going as you row your boat across. That's why this is called the periodic, and it is a table. There we go. It has 4 legs of elements. All right, there you have it. This slide works a lot better when it's on PowerPoint, and you get to see the picture come up after I say organization is challenging, and then this picture pops up of me and my desk. And you know what's sad is that my desk. This is the following week after I originally made this PowerPoint. My desk doesn't look a whole lot better. In fact, it looks almost exactly the same. It's just the papers are different. That's all. So anyway, yeah, organization is challenging. So for a long time, scientists were trying to come up with a really good way to organize the elements that was useful and it made sense. And yeah, they had some good tries, but ultimately nothing was working until, dun dun dun, bam! Dmitri Ivanovich Mendeleev. I'm terrible at accents, so that was my Russian, and I am Dmitri. Yeah, that's not really good, right? Anyway, that's Dmitri Ivanovich Mendeleev. Please do not confuse him with last year's Gregor Mendel, the guy with the sweet peas. Don't, please. It's not the same guy. Mendeleev. I can see where you're going with that, but there's all of that right there, not the same person. For a quiz or a test or just for your own knowledge, you do not need to remember his middle name. I just think I love his middle name, Ivanovich. Ivanovich. I'm Dmitry Ivanovich Mendeleev. See, I have too much fun with this. All right. Yeah, you don't need to remember that. All you really need to remember is Mendeleev. But do remember that. He's the father of our periodic table. He's an important guy. In 1869, Dmitry Mendeleev came along and he created this. Whoops. Well, let's try that. He created this, which evolved into what we now know as the periodic table. And this is the original periodic table that he created. He based his rows and columns on, or he based his elements, he put them into rows and columns, and he based them on their similarities and their masses. His table, if you notice, there are little open spots in here. See all of these? He has little question marks. Well, it's cool. He left little blank spaces, not knowing that those elements had not been, we didn't know about them at the time. And he guessed not only that those elements belonged there, that there were elements out there, that they would be discovered, but he also guessed about their properties and their masses. You can see he guessed the mass right there. And not only did he predict that these elements would be there, not only did he predict their masses and their properties, but for the most part, he was dead on. He did a really good job at it. Was he 100% correct? No, please. Who is? I mean, come on. But maybe Gregor Mendel was, but not Mendeleev, sorry. But he did a really, really good job, which is pretty stinking impressive. Good for you, Mr. Mendeleev. So, like I said, what Mendeleev originally created evolved into what we now know as the modern periodic table of elements. But there is a really, really important difference between the way the modern periodic table is organized and the way Mendeleev originally organized his. But I'm not going to tell you what it is. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and figure it out for yourself. But I will tell you that it has nothing at all to do with how many elements there are. Go back and look at this statement right here. Read it very, very carefully. Then go back and look at how Mendeleev organized his table, and then look at our periodic table and see if you can figure it out. Maybe you don't have to go through all of that process and you just know it. Look at you, you're so smart. Maybe you do have to go through that process and just try to figure it out on your own. Even if you never get it, come up with something other than we have more elements than they did. No, please. Come up with something better than that. Write your answer down and turn it in. Not before class starts tomorrow, but turn it in. That's your note check. That's how I know you got to the end of this. By the way, there's more, so stay. This isn't the end exactly. Hold on. Okay, most of you have gotten your project assignment, but here I am explaining what it is. You're going to create a presentation about one of the elements, and then see the handout for information. Basically, you can create any kind of presentation. It doesn't have to be a slideshow. In the past, I've had kids dress up. I've had kids do skits. I've had kids rap, bring music or guitars and stuff and play and sing original songs. I've never had a kid make a video, but I keep suggesting it. The only thing I ask is that you cannot use any clips from the internet whatsoever that already exist. You may make a video yourself, but you may not use anybody else's videos at all for any purpose other than watching it to get information. So yours is due after the break. Lucky for you. It only has to be 3 minutes long. Be as creative as you want. Use whatever format you want to use. And when we get back from the break, I hope to see some really good presentations about elements. If you have any questions at all about this, ask me. And by now you all know about your long-term assignment. Listen, you have to know and be comfortable with the periodic table. My first few years teaching chemistry, I thought, well, we'll see. We'll get away without having to memorize parts of the periodic table. It didn't work. What ended up happening was, as we went further into the year, kids would spend so long searching for the elements on the periodic table and asking me, Miss, what does MN mean? That we got very little work done. And so that's why all the teachers make you memorize parts of the periodic table. And so I'm going to make you memorize it. It's a little bit of pain right now, but it's not that bad. I'm breaking it up into 4 different weeks. I believe you guys have already taken your first quiz. Your next quiz is going to be on, well, actually, I gave you the paper. I'm not going to go into the dates. I gave you the paper with all the dates where you have to have taken your quiz by. So yours is coming up pretty quickly. And then after you finish all of that, you need to wait at least 24 hours, and then you can take the test, which will include all of the elements that I give you at once. This does not include the entire periodic table. For you guys, I think it's about 60-something elements that you don't have to know any numbers that go along with it. All you need to know is if I give you the symbol, you have to give me the correctly spelled name. If I give you the name, you have to give me the symbol with correct capitalization. That's about it. Thank you.